Over the past few games, Smash Bros. Has expanded its scope further and further. What was once just Nintendo characters beating up each other is now sending out invites to faces across all of gaming. But in the eyes of some, it's not just a platform fighter or a way for fans to decide who's who in the gaming world, even if the latter wasn't what the devs intended. It's also an opportunity to see new life breathed into characters they consider underappreciated. Several times now, Sakurai and his team have taken characters left on the scrap heap and reinvigorated them to their fans' elation. Seeing them redone all shiny and new and crafted with care by someone who gets them, it's validating. It reminds their fans why they became so attached so long ago. We've even seen these revivals through Smash lead to a newcomer's franchise getting brought back to life. It's happened enough now that characters will gain support for Smash because it'd mean a chance to leave them in good hands for a while. And from there, who knows? This is Challenger Approaching, where we take a character who isn't playable in Smash yet and go deep into detail on what they could be like if they got in for real. Our challenger this time has had a similar up and down history, with some highly regarded games marred by long periods of neglect and strange executive decisions. But a Smash invite just might be a chance for him to gain a stronger footing and fulfill his fans' long-awaited dreams.
Rayman!
Rayman is a man. A vegetable. No, a thingamajig. Woven to life by the nymphs of the Glade of Dreams at the behest of the Glade's creator to be its guardian and protector, formed using a ray of moonlight and many luminous fragments of pure energy. But since they were a bit short on the latter, they skipped making arms, legs, or a neck, resulting in a being whose extremities float around his body all on their own. Actually, that's not fully accurate. It's just the most recent version of Rayman's backstory. The exact details have actually changed multiple times between games. Was he created by the nymphs in response to bad dreams invading the Glade for the first time? Did he just wash up on shore one day, to the surprise of the locals who didn't think a limbless being like him could be alive? Did he have a love interest once upon a time he fell out with when she tried to cut off a colony of hair-like creatures that attached themselves to his head? Or maybe, Rayman is a creation of the French video game company Ubisoft, first envisioned in the early 1990s in hopes of creating a mascot that could stand amongst gaming's greatest at the time. Development of his debut game actually started on the SNES, but for reasons probably related to hardware limitations, it was eventually shifted to the Atari Jaguar of all things. Launching in 1995, Rayman's first outing saw so much success that it got ported to several other systems in the following years. From there, he's seen several more mainline titles, several ports/reimaginings on portable systems, and a whole bunch of spin-offs. This is a character with a weird legacy. While Rayman's core platformers are mostly well regarded, especially his most recent ones, everything else has kinda come off like higher-ups at Ubisoft are throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. Portable counterparts to his core platformers that completely diverge from their source game's plots? Okay, sure. Oddball minigame collections with new characters he'd struggle to separate himself from for a while? Might as well. Multiplayer arena spin-off using Rayman 2's engine? I suppose. Educational spin-offs using Rayman 1's engine? Sure. And that's not even including the underfunded and short-lived CGI cartoon. Between all this and the sometimes baffling ad campaigns his games have had, it makes one wonder if the higher-ups at Ubisoft weren't sure exactly how to handle Rayman. It didn't help that they themselves came under fire for certain executive decisions in the past, or that Rayman's actual creator turned out to have... Yet despite all the twists and turns, the character himself has remained iconic, enough to develop a support base hoping that the Smash team and its history of handling guest fighters with utmost care and attention might get to work with him next, even enough that he was the go-to for a certain hoax that now lives in infamy. But his actual chances for the next game are tough to get a feel for. Would a Western company that isn't Microsoft be high enough priority? Would Ubisoft even want to negotiate the rights for Rayman? Or would they want to push someone else to be their first fighter in Smash instead? And yet, thanks to a trophy in Smash 4 and a spirit in Ultimate, we know Rayman is on Sakurai's radar. And we know Ubisoft's up for letting him fight because he's shown up in a different platform fighter already. It gives him a non-existent leg up on some of the competition, however things play out. So, what if things did play out this way? What would Rayman be like in Smash? His basic appearance is both consistent and inconsistent since Rayman 2. The only stuff that's changed are the designs of his shoes and the hood around his neck. For For his Smash appearance, we want to include the right mix of these elements. To that end, I decided to give his hood the purple drawstrings from Origins and Legends, since both games are well liked, and incorporated the swirl pattern on his shoes from Rayman 3, because it just looks cool. Personality-wise, when he's needed to be a sacred protector, Rayman jumps to the call with utmost enthusiasm, after someone wakes him up from his latest snooze session. Excited expressions and over-the-top animations are the name of the game, with just a hint of smugness when he does something well, but not too much because he doesn't take himself too seriously. Origins and Legends have some wild animation frames to work with, though those would need to be toned down since this is a fighting game and animations need to be easy to follow in real time. For alternate palettes, Rayman has a few places to pull from. One is the many friends and allies he's picked up over the series. A Glowbox-themed alt is a no-brainer. Secondly, the power-ups in Rayman 3 all change his look temporarily, and we can use a few of them too as long as the colors don't overlap too much. Then there's a whole list of costumes from Origins and Legends if the Smash team were so inclined. Could definitely see them use Raymasis at bare minimum. Delving into Rayman's attributes and stats, first let's figure out exactly how he'd fight. His playstyle needs to fit like a glove, so to speak. And as we established already, he's done a lot of stuff across his games. All-rounder movesets are kinda common for platformer mascots, but hey, it fits. And it's not like Rayman lacks ways to make a jack-of-all-trades playstyle still stand out. While he can do a lot of different stuff competently, his moves favor mid-range combat as his plan A, using his limbless hands and feet to outbox opponents and gain the advantage up front. His other stuff is there as a fallback when his footsies tools aren't as useful right that moment. For his exact stats, Rayman stands a head taller than Mario, but by Smash standards that puts him right around average. His weight is close to the middle as well, though this one's a bit under average. As part of the welterweight class in between mid and light, he can take more hits than his lack of body parts would suggest. The real fun starts when he gets moving. While Rayman's walk speed here is pretty meh and his initial dash is lacking, once he gets going, he's pretty fast. We're talking run speed that cracks the top 30 of the roster with airspeed in the top 20. While his burst movement is just okay, he can cover long distances with little trouble. Having a wall jump, just like in his recent outings, doesn't hurt either. Rayman's movement does have one quirk though. His jumps are floaty. With more airtime per jump compared to fast fallers, he focuses more on rising aerials than falling ones. It also makes him easier to juggle, is what I would say, but he has a couple tricks up his non-existent sleeves to make his disadvantaged state, and especially his recovery, much better than you'd expect. Rayman's attacks themselves have some weird traits. He boasts above average damage output and knockout power on the whole, but his frame data is strange. While most of his A-button attacks have decent startup, their high end lag leaves him open for longer afterward than most and susceptible to whiff punishes. Rayman's combo game is a tick below average, but that's not the full story either. Some of his moves are much better, or worse, at stringing together than their counterparts on other fighters, leading to some unique combo routes. On to the fun part. Let's see what Rayman's actual moveset looks like. Beginning with his most basic attacks, of course. Rayman's jab combo consists of a quick 1-2 punch with alternating hands, followed by a longer punch with his forward-facing hand. One less hit than its inspiration has. It's his fastest grounded move by far. Great if you want to play it safe, but it also has less reach than its Legends counterpart does, being his shortest range attack period until the third hit. Rayman's forward tilt has him kick forward with one foot. A simple poke with above average damage, range, and startup, it has a property most of Rayman's normals have. The hand or foot he attacks with becomes intangible during the actual hit, making him that much better at directly contesting enemy attacks. However, the body part in question regains its hurt box once the attack ends before Rayman pulls it back, leaving him wide open if his attack doesn't connect. The same applies to his up tilt, this swinging uppercut based on his partially charged high attack in Legends. It's an anti-air with great reach vertically, but not much left or right, and its height lets him pressure more platforms with it than most fighters can while grounded. Rayman's down tilt has a complicated history. This move was part of his base kit in Origins, but in Legends he can only use it while moving through narrow passages. This low sweep has above average startup, but legit reach and surprising combo potential, and since his foot swings back around afterward, he's actually not as vulnerable on whiff. Then his dash attack has Rayman slide forward while swinging both fists around him. With faster startup but not as much reach as most of his kit, and since his initial dash is lacking, it's more of a niche move to catch landings or react to your opponent doing something while you're already running. Simple enough. Now how about Rayman's smash attacks? For a couple of these, we're combining his moveset from the newer games with an old friend from Rayman 3, the Heavy Metal Fist. His forward smash has him form a spiked metal glove around one hand, wind up with it, then deliver a powerful punch a set distance ahead. Even if it doesn't reach as far as in Legends for balance reasons, it still has great range, a ton of power, and a big hitbox since his hand spontaneously grows for the attack. But it's also notably slow to come out, and it's not as strong if it connects before his fist is fully extended. For Rayman's up smash, take everything you just heard and tilt it 90 degrees. When used for an uppercut, the Heavy Metal Fist doesn't have quite as much range for balance reasons, but it's still the stuff of nightmares if you get a read or a platform trap. Just don't miss. Remember, Rayman's hand regains its hurtbox before it comes back, and it stays out longer than usual here. His down smash is an odd one. Foregoing range for area of effect, Rayman punches the ground hard enough to create a circular shockwave. It's his fastest smash attack, which isn't saying much, covering himself completely but with less range to the sides compared to most down smashes. Its unusually low end lag means it can actually work as a combo starter at low percents. That's his grounded attacks, but what happens when Rayman goes airborne? His neutral air is an original move where he quickly shoves both hands outward in opposite directions. Tied for his fastest aerial and with range equal to Roy and Crom, it's great for when you want some breathing room. Drawbacks include fewer active frames than similar neutral airs and worse combo potential. Rayman's forward air is based on his first default air attack in Origins and Legends. Low base knockback on this thing actually makes it one of his go-to combo moves. You can string a few together at low to mid percents. It's comparable to Pac-Man's forward air, with better range but worse end lag. Rayman's back air has him quickly kick behind him instead. The animation and hitbox are distinct from his forward air, with faster startup, stronger knockback at a flatter angle, and more end lag. Instead of a combo 2, it's one of his best kill moves. Like in the source material, Rayman turns around afterward. For his up air, I have him performing a backflip kick that swings his foot out over a wide arc. An original move, because his up air in Origins and Legends would have been easy to dodge around. Since this is Rayman, his foot reaches so far during the flip that it gives Ike's up air a run for its money in range while being faster to come out. Less power though, it's a juggling tool, not a kill move. Wait, what's this? Rayman's down air is a move unique to the GBA version of Rayman 3 where he throws his body straight down. It goes a moderate distance before bouncing back, but anyone in its path on the way down gets spiked. Startup's on par with most sword fighter down airs, and while his body goes intangible during the actual attack, it regains its hurtbox on the way back up. But that's not all he can do in the air. We can't put Rayman in Smash without including one of his signature abilities. Once he's used both his jumps, pressing a jump button again in midair has him spin his hair like a helicopter and slow his descent. He can keep it up as long as you press the button down, or hold up if you're weird and use tap jump. But after half a second passes, he starts losing height faster and eventually reaches his regular fall speed again. The helicopter's another source of aerial movement that helps cover long distance or mix up the timing of Rayman's landings. Hang time runs on a quote-quote fuel system like Villagers and Rob's up specials that refills over time on the ground, and it has no hitbox whatsoever, so don't try and attack with it. Alright, how about Rayman's grab game? His grab animations are unique, swinging both hands around in a bear hug motion to grab anyone half a dash length away. Their frame data is comparable to other disjointed grabs like Greninja's and Zelda's, slower than average but not as slow as a tether grab. His grabs are more disjointed than either of theirs, but at the cost of having a blind spot right next to him. When he does get his hands on someone, his pummel is a quick headbutt that reaches far enough to make you wonder if it becomes detached for a second. Rayman's throws are a varied bunch. His forward throw is a direct lift from Rayman 2, flinging the opponent away just like he would an object in that. His back throw has him turn around and perform an overhead slam based on his second midair attack in Legends if you mash the button during a jump. His up throw uses his up air in Legends, still found a use for that. Punting his opponent like a football works well enough to be a viable kill throw. Finally, his down throw, get this, has him shove his opponent onto the ground and unleash a rapid flurry of strikes based on a move he has access to in Brawlhalla. This cross-platform fighter shoutout is his highest damaging throw, and it even combos at very low percents. Finally, we can't ignore Rayman's taunts. Some options for them include a quick air guitar session like at the end of certain levels in his newer outings, a bit where he looks around scared like in certain parts of Rayman 1, and this ridiculous face he pulls in multiple games to surprise certain enemies. That was interesting, if a little typical. So what might Rayman's specials do to really help him stand out? We begin with his neutral special, and what better move to use for such a key part of his moveset than his signature move? Rayman's Telescopic Fist is an ability he's had since almost the very beginning. Had to learn it partway into the first game. It's taken a few forms across the series. Our Smash version will draw most from Rayman 3. On use, Rayman pulls one fist back and begins to wind it up with a circular motion. Press B again, and he literally throws a slow-moving punch with greater reach than any of his regular attacks. But if you let the fist wind up a while first until it starts to glow bright gold, the punch becomes stronger and gains minor homing abilities that let it seek out the closest opponent within range. And that's not all. Once the attack is out, Rayman can press B a third time to wind up his other fist and fire it out the same way. And since you can walk and jump while charging, you can aim the second fist in a different spot than the first. Telescopic Fist is built to poke at opponents just beyond mid-range and force them to do something to respond. The optional charge times, homing effect, and follow-up allow for all kinds of timing and positioning mix-ups. But it does have drawbacks. While you can move during it, your mobility is worse, and you can't use any other attacks until both fists return. If this thing whiffs, he's a sitting duck. That's one special down, but it's kinda vanilla, isn't it? Where's the crazy dream stuff? Well, look no further, because Rayman's side special is where things get nonsensical. Present in several levels of Rayman 2 are sentient walking missiles of a few types that you can tame and ride around. We'll be pulling from a couple of them. On use, a yellow-painted walking shell appears beneath Rayman and bucks up out of habit. You can hold B at this point to charge it. Let go, and the missile sprints forward at high speed if you're on the ground, or flies forward if you're in the air, for a set distance dependent on how long you held for, blowing up if it comes in contact with something. Yellow shells are a versatile tool for covering long distances while threatening anyone who might try to intervene. The longer you hold at the start, the further you go, but the more telegraphed you are. The shell runs faster than it flies, but you can direct it up or down somewhat in midair, and if it reaches ground level, the legs come back out. There's one big flaw to keep in mind, though. Rayman's sitting on top of this thing and he can still get hit, making this move vulnerable to overhead attacks, especially swords. Also, if the shell reaches its max distance without hitting something, it peters out and Rayman hops off without going into freefall. Two specials down, so what could Rayman use to recover with? For that, we tap into Rayman 3 again. The Telescopic is another of the power-ups you can find in that game, giving Rayman a propeller-tipped helmet that upgrades his helicopter ability to carry him upward for a few seconds instead of simply slowing his descent. Activating this has the helmet spontaneously appear on Rayman's head, and he immediately flies upward with a slight diagonal angle. His body even spins during it. That's a little extra thing I'd throw in for visual flair. Well, not just that. This move's hitbox is on Rayman himself and not the propeller, dealing multiple hits ending with a finisher just strong enough to get opponents off you. More importantly, once the move ends, Rayman automatically goes into his regular air helicopter with its fuel fully replenished, able to glide a little longer to cover more distance. Telescopic is Rayman's main source of vertical recovery, offering further movement mix-ups to make his offstage options even more flexible. Combined with Yellow Shell's horizontal movement and his helicopter letting him stall in midair, and you have a fighter who is very difficult to edge guard. It's even fast enough to use as an out-of-shield punish, though only for damage. The copter's total distance is good but not great, about as high as Link's spin attack, and once you exit the regular helicopter state afterward, Rayman goes into freefall. On to the down special. These are usually the wild cards of a character's kit. So what do we have for Rayman? Well, that works. Giant bouncing plums were a major part of the early games in the series with a few different roles to play. Our take's most inspired by how they worked in Rayman 1 and 2. On use, Rayman summons a plum immediately in front of him that slowly bounces in place at about full hop height once it reaches the ground. Striking the plum with any attack alters its trajectory, turning it into a moving hitbox that hits increasingly harder the faster it's going. But that's not all. If Rayman jumps onto the plum as it bounces, he sticks to the top of it and can ride it until he jumps off or takes damage. While riding, he has access to all of his usual grounded options, allowing for attacks in ways only he can. Plums are weird. On their own, they're an unconventional zoning or stage control tool if you use precise attacks to aim them at certain locations. But they're also an oddball movement option that gives Rayman access to his tilt and smash attacks in places other fighters can't match. That said, Opponents can redirect the plum with their own attacks if you're not standing on it, and if you are, they can just hit you. And while you can try to drop one on someone's head, its knockback is lacking before it bounces off something. This ain't Rayman 1. And you can only have one in play at a time for obvious reasons. Alright, all that remains is Rayman's final smash. Now how do we end this in style? Sure, why not? Mosquitoes have been around since the first game, acting as friend or foe depending on the situation. For this move, we're pulling specifically from Rayman Origins, and Legends by proxy. Powered up by the Smash Ball, Rayman whistles toward off screen, calling in a giant mosquito who picks him up and hovers in place. From there, the massive insect performs one of 3 different attacks, randomly if you press nothing, but you can choose with the right inputs. Press any direction on the control stick, and the mosquito revs up its wings and launches forward at high speed, dealing a powerful hit to anyone in its path. Press the A button, and it unleashes a rapid string of energy projectiles from its proboscis that you can angle up or down, ending with a final powerful shot for massive damage. And if you press B, it sucks in air through its proboscis, inhaling the closest opponent within range and firing them forward for tremendous knockback that also hits anyone else in the way. Wait, how does that even work? Must be dream logic. This is what Rayman could be like in Smash. The Limbless Wonder, born of the Glade of Dreams and sworn to protect it from all things evil and nightmarish. While his happy-go-lucky personality may be disarming, don't be deceived. He knows the greatest victory is measured by the extent of the celebrations that follow it. Rayman boasts a highly versatile moveset that can competently do a lot of different things and adapt to many different opponents. He excels when outspacing his foes at mid-range, using his temporarily disjointed hands and feet to stuff out enemies' attempts to get in or space him back. And thanks to a multifaceted recovery and multiple ways to mix up his movement, his disadvantaged state can prove very difficult for opponents to exploit. However, Rayman needs breathing room to set up his most effective stuff. If he's being pressured up close, he can't space his attacks or get a plum out safely. Most of his A-button moves have notable end lag that make him very easy to whiff punish and particularly vulnerable to bait and punish tactics. And several of his attacks also have blind spots up close, putting him in an even worse position if/when opponents sneak through his spacing attempts. How'd this one go? Hopefully the fact that the only Rayman games I've actually played are 3 and Legends didn't skew this concept too much, though a lot of it had to do with how much of his moveset from Origins and Legends were natural fits for his A moves. I swear it's like they used Smash as a point of reference when they designed it. And there's a bunch of stuff I couldn't fit in for various reasons, like the slide move and aerial crush attack from Legends because other options work better. I also opted out of the weird landing somersault because the animation wasn't well suited for a fighting game. Moves from other Rayman titles also got scrapped. I thought about having him swing from a purple lum for his up special before deciding it was too unwieldy, and I turned down using the lockjaw from Rayman 3 for his grab because I felt something less referential worked better there. Seems like Rayman has an uncertain future ahead of him, and not just Smash-wise. The only real action he's had since Legends has been mobile spin-offs, and while it's nice that he's getting some action compared to the lulls he had before Origins, it's still a shame the momentum he had after Legends hasn't truly been followed up. Hopefully he's able to find his footing again sometime soon, whether through Ubisoft themselves or from an outsider who truly gets him. Special thanks to these people here for helping make this video a reality. Thanks as well to my patrons for your continued support. And remember, patrons get to choose who the next episode of Challenger Approaching is about. One of these 3 will get to go next. So, until next time, may you have some good dreams tonight.